Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, May 7th. We're on the European account and we've got to get some victories. Unfortunately, poor decision making on my part. I need to get a Priest and Warlock victory and 3 Rogue or Warrior victories. And meanwhile, also play some Elementals, so it's probably not a terrible thought to, let's try combo Priest, and we're, I suppose, still trying to play ranked, so we'll do that. I really don't even have a ton of news, so if I'm not too careful, I'm gonna run out of news, but I have pretty much never actually done that. So first article we have is Gamma Sutra has an article, the RPG Maker MV Scripting First Impressions. I do not want for a second to encourage anybody to make RPG Maker games. We've just recently started to see either some behind the scenes curation on Steam of RPG Maker games or people deciding that that's not going to make them $1 million or more, and so we've not seen a lot of that lately, which is great because Steam was getting flooded about a year ago, I would say, with just here's another RPG Maker, here's another RPG Maker game. Most low effort quality stuff I've ever seen. The Cat Lady, one of the games horror games I've played, and I definitely encourage everybody to check it out. He was made by one person who I would definitely argue is not the greatest of programmers ever. He's using a system like RPG Maker called Adventure Game Studio, and he's upgraded that to the newest version so that the graphics now can look better and it uses more RAM for the sprites and things. So if you haven't played the Cat Lady, now is an even better time to do that. I suppose if you have and you need an excuse to play it again, that would be a good time. There are kind of multiple endings to the Cat Lady, so if I had more time myself, I would potentially consider going back and playing it for my Halloween October time slots, but I've got plenty of other horror games to move forward to. Speaking of games, we've got a game that came out on Steam called Batter Burst. It came out April 17th, so I don't know why it's being mentioned here. I think what's on Steam got a little screwed up, or something weird is happening. It's from a developer who hasn't done anything else on Steam. It's $2.99. I wonder if maybe Valve fills in some empty spaces, but I don't believe that's the case. I think if your game gets removed, if a game gets removed from Valve, that game ID, that URL, that link forever is left blank. That way somebody can't do a bait and switch. Anyways, I'm looking at this game and it looks like garbage, flat MS Paint level graphics. You could almost see the beginnings of an artistic style here if whoever drew these sprites and elements just kept on drawing for a good 4 to 8 more years. This game has an all-time peak of 2 people, and at $2.99 I'm surprised it's got that many people playing it. Single player only. It says it's an action indie game. I'd say it's probably a action platformer game. Just looks like a mess, really. So Batter Burst, best I can tell, has nothing to do with food or batter. so I don't get that. It does seem to have explosions in the game, so the burst part kind of makes sense. Next game we have is a game just called Sudoku from Sly Games, a company that has made several other Sudoku games. And this is 10% off for $1.79. I think it's probably too expensive, but it does look like it's a one-screen game of playing Sudoku. And it does seem like it has some simplified and expanded Sudoku puzzles, simplified in a 2x2 grid of 2x2 grids. Sudoku puzzles where the highest number is only 4, or expanded as far as a let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, yeah, 16 by 16 grid, a 4x4 grid with a 4x4 grid. And the standard Sudoku is the 3x3 grid with 3x3 grids inside of it.
You are the shadow's puppet.
Let's go ahead and destroy this.
Right away.
So, looks like there's an exit button on the main menu, and maybe like there probably is a main menu, just like puzzles.
Ready for this?
One would assume, which means it might not be an infinite generator of Sudoku puzzles. Maybe, maybe not. It's very pink. Pink in the logo, pink in the background. Has an all-time player count of 2, 33 Steam achievements. Seems really expensive. Says 3 dimensions of squares, 4x4 up, 9x9 and 16x16. 3 difficulties, easy, medium, and hard. Minimalistic. As soon as possible it will have trading cards, which is the new thing that the trading card games have had to do, because they literally, Steam has stopped this trading card garbage from going on. Now you actually have to sell a significant amount of product before you can have trading cards.
Right away.
Yeah, I can't recommend this Sudoku. There's nothing that looks too wrong with it, but it's from a company that's already sold like 5 different Sudoku games, so I imagine it doesn't have any staying power on that. Plus, frankly, you might do better doing Sudoku on your phone than playing it on a PC. Have that mobile. Have that playable on the mobile device. Alright, that's one police victory. And we did play an elemental in that process too. So now we need just 3 rogue and warrior games. What can we find here? Tempo rogue or rush warrior? I think I'll play rush warrior. Next game we have on Steam is called Vortex Rush. It's from a developer who hasn't done anything else. It's $1.59 with being 20% off. It is flying through a spherical vortex, avoiding squares, or hitting blue squares while avoiding red squares, and then speeding up.
Victory or death.
There are definitely some games that have done this a lot better. The concept itself doesn't inherently suck, but it is just a rip-off of, is it Plebius? I keep thinking that that's the game that this is supposed to be ripping off. It's way too expensive and way too ugly, and nobody has bought it and reviewed it. for that reason, I'm sure. This looks like a project that would be in your first year, not your final project for a first year computer programmer. It looks like a project you would do probably in the first half of the first year. Is like make a game like this to get the basics of understanding of how to load in a sprite and how to have a character that is controllable by the player. But certainly not something that's of a high enough quality to be on the Steam store.
You are the Shadow's puppet.
Next game we have is a game called Find Your Way. It says Find Your Way is a third-person shooter in the Wild West setting. You're in Sawyer City, Savior City, S-A-Y-V-E-R. I guess that's Savior. For many years, this city was a calm place of the Wild West, but now the gang of J. James that terrorized the Great Plains comes to this place. Let's see. This came out May 7th. It has 6 user reviews. It's from somebody who's made 4 other games, none of which have ever reached any reviews. It says it's early access adventure action. Let's watch this trailer. I hate watching the trailers, they take too much time. So it looks like it's a top-down shooter. The graphics look good though. A top-down shooter in a Western environment. Is it multiplayer? Let's see.
Your magic shall not save you.
The thing about all these graphics, of course, is they could just be assets, purchased assets, but if they are purchased assets, they are at least uniform and thematically mixed correctly. This does look like a you know, Western town. It says it's English full audio, subtitles, $2.99. Let's see what there's 7 positive reviews. And is this single player? Yes, it says it is. I'm having to look at the reviews to try to even find something bad about it, and I certainly have to admit some guilt in that too. That when I'm looking at games, I'm totally looking for negative things that are said about them to not put them in the wishlist. I'm not looking for positive things that would say, yes, you should wishlist this game. Because frankly, the wishlist is too big. There's way too many games on it already that I'd never play. When I get down to actually putting money towards it, or when I look at it compared to some better game that comes out later. The thing I would say about Find Your Way is whether or not it has multiplayer in it, because the single player that exists right now is only going to be entertaining for a very brief amount of time. Yeah, I'm seeing what is effectively, when you take the Western animation out of it, I'm seeing just a zombie game. Yeah, a top-down, zombies are coming at you, and you've got to shoot them with infinite bullets. It says there's 6 locations, but it kind of needs more than 6 locations. It seems like there's these red caves where the bad guys, who are effectively zombies, are coming from. And this is their first impression, and they don't have enough here to impress me. Particularly when you think about the other games that they've made and sold for 99 cents right now. Like the 3 previous games are 99 cents games, so I don't feel like Find Your Way is going to be a groundbreaking change. I feel it is much more realistic to assume that this is just going to be left as the game is, and very little, if any, improvement will ever be made to it. Next game we have on Steam is called Swapper Tiles. Swapper Tile is a first-person puzzle game where you find yourself trapped in a cage with your only chance to escape is to complete the challenges. The game revolves around completing puzzles by swapping tiles around to create a path. Alright, so in the description alone you kind of know that this is going to be a low-effort production with a low-effort name, and the menu certainly confirms that. Let's see, it looks like a mobile game but with no polish. At some point it seems like you can change color presets, but I don't know if that's just to help people with color blindness. It looks like there might be only 9 puzzles in the entire game anyways. Early access, 10% off for $2.69, and no reviews. I think we can pretty well guarantee nobody's gonna buy this game. There's nothing visually impressive about it, and it's the first game from this developer, which is certainly something I bet a lot of people don't check, is like how many games has this person made before. And certainly an argument can be made that everybody has to have a first game, so there is going to be some kind of low quality game that comes out on Steam under your name, under your developer company name, but you don't want it to be garbage. Like, in all honesty, I think Campo Santo's Firewatch is a great example of a game that should be the level of quality to what you're trying to do before you release on Steam, or Hellblade: Sesuna's Sacrifice. Like, you could certainly go a little bit lower in quality and visual appeal, but it needs to be big, it needs to try to target many hours of gameplay, it needs to not look like a poor effort, which so many games that come out on Steam do look like poor efforts, and then that developer never releases anything else because their first game didn't sell, or they changed their name and then they release under a different name. And that's not something that I recall happening in the video game industry before. Like, not since the first crash of video games in the 70s. Like, the quality was a major issue that needed to be addressed when the NES came out, and most people learned that lesson and came out with quality products before they had anything to sell. But now with Steam Direct, we're backsliding. Let's see. Next game we have is called Cydonia, I guess Cyadlonia, and let's see. It's the only game from this developer for $1.99. I feel like a lot of developers think that if they put it under $5, they're immune from criticism, but I think also a lot of developers feel like they can they might very well have the California mentality where, you know, $5 is not any amount of money, when every game developer should definitely be coming from a mentality of this game might have a target market of very poor children who have every single penny, every single dime, 50 cents even might be a lot of money. You have to start from that perspective. There certainly are people around the world, maybe they don't have Steam accounts, but there are people around the world that don't have 50 cents to their name. Sidonia, looking at the trailer, is a light puzzle, laser puzzle game. It's not animated well. There's been tons of these, and you really can't even do too much with the concept. It's a better implemented on a mobile game just because less is required. Like, see, like this game, Sidonia, requires a third-party account to save your progress, which tells me again this is probably a mobile game being ported, and nobody's given it a review, and I can't certainly understand why that is the case. It doesn't look good, and it's not offering anything we haven't seen a million times before. Okay, this is probably a Chinese game, yes. Chinese only game. Apparently it's called Sage Elegy, but in Chinese. And what is it? Early access RPG. I don't know why I'm talking about a Chinese only game. Yeah, it looks like an RPG game that, frankly, if it got translated, got a little bit more polish on it, it looks a lot better than like Sidonia did. Yeah, for all my complaining about cheap, low quality Chinese games, there are certainly a lot of cheap, low quality Western games that are worse. And in general, there's just a lot of cheap, low quality games everywhere. There's no reviews for this game either. However, this Chinese only game came out April 20th. So it must have been an early access. What's on Steam must be giving me games that come out of early access a second time. I guess that's not terrible, but it kind of sucks too.
Your magic shall not save you.
It's not exactly what I would prefer to have happen. I'm trying to win right now. We already talked about Primitive Race. Gematsu has an article, Terra Wars Japanese Android closed beta test signups are open. So if you have an Android phone in Japan and you want to play Terra Wars, you can sign up for that. That is probably not something worth me mentioning. Okay, so we were looking for Rogue and Warrior, so let's try a Rogue game. I'm gonna move over to casual too, just because I'm running out of news. Interesting. We may go into a silent post show. I'm gonna have to go through my Twitter and see if there's anything new to say. PC Gamer has an article. The 198X is like an entire 80s arcade crammed into one game. And it's a Kickstarter game, and this is one of those PC Gamer arcade Kickstarter advertisements. Yeah, maybe I'd be interested in 198X in the future. It seems like it's spoofing a lot of old games, although arguably one of the games it's spoofing is a Final Fantasy game that would never be in arcades, and one of the games it's spoofing is a Shinobi style game, which also probably wouldn't be in arcades. Says it has a beat 'em up, a shoot 'em up, a racer, a 2D ninja game, and an old CRPG. Which I'm not sure what the C is standing for in that idea. But that's if the product is finished and it ever comes for sale. Talking about a game now that's on Kickstarter is pointless. Let's go ahead and play Elementals, so we'll at least be done with that element. PC Gamer has an article saying Overwatch players are earning play of the game for killing robot gondoliers. So one of the maps on Overwatch is apparently a Venice like map where the streets are flooded and there are gondoliers, but they're robot gondoliers, and apparently they count as enemies, and therefore for some reason killing them equates to killing them without taking any damage, which I imagine equates to the play of the game. I'm only slightly interested in Overwatch at this point. I think by the time I got around to even thinking about playing it, I think most of the community would have gone, most of the good of the bad players would have been gone, and only the pros would have been left. I'm looking at it kind of anxiously, seeing if there will be a some kind of tie-in to Overwatch with Activision Blizzard's next first-person shooter that they're apparently working on, and how that next game is going to be different from the current game. But right now, that's pretty pointless information. Gamasutra has an article. Steam reviews study suggests bad design, not bugs, irks players most. A recent study published by the Empirical Software Engineering Journal examines negative and positive reviews over 6,224 games, which that might be a significant portion of the games on Steam. And the information and what information could provide useful data for developers looking to better understand players' concerns. Conducted by researchers at the Queen's University in Canada, the academic study delves into several factors that come into play when the review is written on Steam, such as examining hours logged before the review was posted, whether the game was indie or not, and the complaints of performance issues. A particularly interesting conclusion the researchers came to was that players complained more about game design as opposed to bugs. As the table below shows, only 8% of all players' reviews examined or mentioned bugs in the game, while 34% of the games or reviews mentioned the cons related to game design. The study didn't define game design, which seems to be used as a catch-all term for various elements of a game, but bad design player commentary included gameplay is so boring, not particularly engaging, according to the study. 2 more victories. In negative reviews left by players, 17% mentioned the bugs, while 57% mentioned the cons related to game design. As the study reports, the percentage of reported bugs in reviews is low compared to the cons of game design. This could suggest that players value good gameplay design over technical quality. I think there's also probably a bias, like, to not mention bugs, particularly because you just never know if it's just your computer. Like, I could see myself getting tricked into saying the Lego games are really great on PC and not mentioning that they run like garbage on my PC, because people could convince me that it is my PC's fault and not the game's fault. However, I've worked through those issues certainly, and I will most definitely blame Lego games for not being programmed robustly enough to run on a modern PC.
The light protects me.
Let's do this. Do that. Let's see. Top 10 categories. There's a chart here that says Table 10 categories of reviews ordered by percentage of all reviews. Category says percentage of all reviews, 71% were not helpful. 38 had pros. 34 had cons. 8 had bugs. 4 had suggestions, and 1 had a video in there. And so I'm assuming what this kind of boils down to is that the exact word pro or con was put in the video, not just that it had a positive review and thus
Fight. Here we go.
That's why it was in there.
Must do soon.
Okay, so of the percentage of positive reviews, 71% was still not helpful. 46 had the word pro in it versus all reviews. 29 had the word con in it. 7 had bug in it. 4 had suggestion. 4% had suggestions in it, and 1 had a video. I feel like 1% having videos in it
Your magic shall not
is going to go up higher. I feel like that's gonna happen. Of negative reviews, 55% were rated not helpful, which you see a big gap there, where 71% of positive reviews not helpful at all. 55% not helpful when they're negative reviews. And that's why I only look at negative reviews, is because I don't find anything personally helpful in the idea of oops, played that wrong. Let's do this.
die, mage.
This is our town, scrub.
Yeah, beat it.
Let's see. Negative reviews have the word con in it 57% of the time versus positive they only have 29%. Negative reviews have the word bug in the review versus for 17% of the time versus 7% for the positive ones. Suggestions, oddly, only 2% of the time do negative reviews have suggestions, where 4% of the time they have suggestions when they're a positive review. Which is to say, if you want to actually make a suggestion and have somebody listen to you, you apparently come off a lot nicer and positive than if you just want to rag on them and tell them they suck. And then this chart goes on to break it down to a percentage of early access reviews, percentage of non-early access reviews, percentage of reviews for indie games, percentage of reviews for non-indie games, percentage of reviews for free-to-play games versus percentage of non-free-to-play games, which would be helpful information if you're trying to sell a game or learn how to not make your game be poorly reviewed on Steam. But the general thing about this article that anybody can take from it is just do good design, good concepts, good thoughts, good pre-production work before you make a game. Do you have a gameplay mechanic that is unique and makes sense with the story? Do you have a story? Do you have the ability to animate things? Do you have the ability to make the game run smoothly? Like everything and anything needs to be thought out and designed before that first bit of code is ever written. If you just sit in front of a computer and say, well, I'll just make a RPG Maker game and put my story in it, that's not good enough to be a video game sold on Steam. If you just are sitting in front of a computer and say, oh, I'll just program an Arkanoid clone, that's not good enough to be sold on Steam.
The sun has set for me.
Arguably, Arkanoid does not have the greatest video game design, since it is an arcade game from the early 80s or 70s maybe. So yeah, that's not the greatest game design. It was probably amazing design when it first came out decades ago, but not anymore. Let's check the chat. Nope, nobody on the chat saying anything new. Next game we have is called Save Her from Dreams. It's from a developer who's made nothing else. Apparently it's not even out. It's a coming soon game. Why did this appear on my...
The light protects me.
Die, mage. Die, mage.
Here we go.
Excuse me, sorry.
Done.
Killed that guy. So this game is very minimalistic, Save Her from Dreams. But it does seem like it has an art style to it. I guess there's no real reason to even talk about it, though, if it's not out yet. So let's just move on. Next game we have is called Hellstar Squadron. Came out May 7th. It's from a developer who has nothing else on Steam. 10% off for $1.79. It says it's an action indie shoot 'em up bullet hell 2D. That's pretty much what I would have guaranteed it to have been with a name like that. It does have a very old school animation style on its thumbnail, and because it's a bullet hell old school shooter where you're scrolling up a monitor that would have originally been a square monitor turned on its side, you're getting significant black bars, but they're not black bars, they're controls and just little bits of information that don't change on the side. So only a third of your screen is even being used. It does have a slight reminiscence of early 80s anime characters on the thumbnail, but when you actually look at all the screenshots of the actual game you're just playing a very old looking bullet hell shooter that probably doesn't have enough polish on it to be worth playing. I was never really... I really wouldn't even call this a bullet hell shooter, come to think of it. It's more closer to just a scrolling upward shooter. Bullet hell has a tendency to be more 3D and side-scrolling, in my mind. Like, no reviews, and I certainly could understand that. Why? Like, making a new game that looks like old games that are a niche in themselves is not the way to make a lot of sales.
You asked for it. What?
Next game we have is called Katie, Katie. It's the only game from this developer. 20% off for $2.39, and the graphics do not look good. It's very pixely. It looks like MS Paint graphics mixed with some other kinds of poor animated graphics. Like, if this was a little bit better, you could almost say that it's a potential, like, intentional art style to make it look bad. Like it was being drawn by a teenager. But I don't think it really is. I think this is bad animation mixed with some bad assets. Kind of want to know what kind of game this is. Katie is a game about forging relationships, reflecting on your own existence, and trying to figure out why you ended up trapped in it. This secluded town features a large cast of unique characters and a lovingly handmade pixel-styled environment ripe for exploration. I don't think I call this a lovingly created pixel-style animation. I call this a poorly animated game. And this game has a couple of bundles to knock the price out. Let's see. And it's a walking around game to interact with people. So it's not like a visual novel. Or for the most part, I bet it probably is a lot similar to a visual novel with the added frustration of walking around to talk to people. Or maybe you don't talk to people very much at all and you're just kind of trapped in this area. One of the screenshots is a locked gate that I imagine that's your final location that they want you to reach is can you exit the gate. Yeah, but there's nothing here in Katie that would make anybody want to play that game. It looks like garbage. This may be a first for us today, honestly, because this may be the first instance ever where every single game I've looked at that came out this weekend was not worth mentioning and total garbage. Which that'll be new. Certainly. We've got Ninja Star saying, "Yo, what's up, man? Yo, looking at chat." I occasionally look at the chat and look at it and responds when there's something to respond to.
I wonder.
So I see you and acknowledge you. Moving on, then PC Gamer has an article, the best free PC software. I imagine this is probably with affiliate links. GIMP, Natural Painting Krita, haven't heard of that one. Video Editing Lightworks, Music Player Music Bee, haven't heard of that. YouTube Downloader, Free Make Video Downloader, Audio Editor Audacity, Video Player VLC, Media Player Streaming Audio Spotify, Vector Image Editor Inkscape, Video Manipulator Handbrake. Good luck figuring out how Handbrake works.
I am one with the candle. Who are you?
Let's see, Gaming, Steam is free, EA Origin is free, Good Old Galaxy is free. Let's see, Software Removal, PC Decrapifier, System Cleaning, CC Cleaner. I used to use CC Cleaner. I don't recommend using anything anymore. Frankly, just don't go too crazy installing things, including things that are supposed to clean up your PC and your PC will be fine. At least that's been my most recent experiences. Certainly in the old days, you needed antiviruses, firewalls, CC cleaner, and other programs. But nowadays, you really don't need any of that. It's just built in. Their VPN is Tunnel Bear. Their antivirus is Bitdefender. I don't think you need an antivirus or any malware software, frankly. As long as, again, you're not installing a bunch of garbage outside of Steam. Like 99.9% of everything I install is through Steam, and I can trust Steam, or I'm willing to trust Steam to run a virus scanner themselves over anything that they're selling.
Mental dislocator.
Ha, this guy's toast.
Let's see.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, now I need to kill one of these guys. Attack here, I guess. Attack here. And return. Anti-malware, Malwarebytes free. Password manager, --line. I don't think you need that. File destruction called Eraser. I don't think there's any reason for you to bother to erase or destroy files. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, and probably if you are doing something illegal, I bet Eraser's not a good option anyways. File recovery, Recuva. I have tried Recuva when trying to recover files. I've tried everything, and it's pretty much up in the air whether or not you'll actually get your files back or you won't. So you kind of have to try every single software. Backup ESOS to do backup free. I do recommend backing up, but I would say you could probably just do Windows backup. Web browsers, Google Chrome and Firefox, or one called Vivaldi. I haven't heard of that one. System utilities, PDF readers, Sumatra PDF. I don't think you need a PDF reader on Windows 10. Email client, I don't think you need an email client. Dropbox for file synchronization. If you use Dropbox, okay. I'm not super hot on Dropbox, just because they're always trying to get you to upgrade and have more space. Plus the Google equivalent of Dropbox, Google Drive, seems to work pretty well and integrate with Android better. Media Burner, CD Burner XP, never heard of it. Messenger Franks, I don't think so. If you're gonna do a Messenger, why not do Discord? Notes, Evernote, I don't think you need that. Utility setup, NineNite, NINITE, haven't heard of that one. Virtual machines, VirtualBox, like, how many people are doing virtual machines? System info, a program called HWINF064, which I guess stands for Hardware Info 64. Probably don't need that. Compression, 7-zip. I do recommend installing 7-zip. Office Seats, Google Docs, or Apache OpenOffice, or LibreOffice. So this PC Game article of, what was it, 33 free softwares, the best free PC software, 39 apps.
I don't need any of you.
I should have just seen my turn.
Here we
That was a
go.
mistake. Let's not continue this mistake further. Of the 39 pieces of software, I'd say about 4 or 5 actually need to be installed. Maybe as many as 8. The rest of them kind of pointless add-ons that, depending on what you're doing with your life and your PC, you don't need. Ninja Star came on the chat and said okay. Yep. Ninja Star, if you have an actual question or comment, like, I'll respond to that certainly, but When people say hi, all I can say is hi back.
The light protects me.
Next game we have on Steam is called Love Obsession. And let's see. Came out May 6th from a developer who hasn't done anything else. It's $11.99, but it's a VR game, so it's not supremely overpriced. It's a little overpriced. It says it's a simulation with nudity, sexual content, and casual. This is another one of these VR games, date an anime girl, or bed an anime girl. Although, in this instance, there might be something. Ooh, this takes a creepier look on the VR game. So, you are sneaking around the room of an anime girl, trying to collect items from her house without her seeing you. Wow, so they've mixed the hiding genre game into the a very creepy solution. And it seems like the game jumps backwards and forwards. There's the house that's mostly black and white, and then there seems to be fantasy sections where you're actually groping / bedding the girl. Now this anime girl in this VR doesn't look like animated right, so I don't think this is a Japanese game. This looks like it's a Western game. It's only in English. They've taken it down as far as they can go probably and still have the game on Steam. And this almost certainly is just an asset flip game. For the most part, just designed to make use of an existing 3D virtual reality house that is not really in the anime style compared to the girl. Has an all-time peak of 3 people. This looks like a game that would be on Twitch for about a week or so before Twitch banned it. Let's see. You have a collection checklist. Search your house, and they are spread out wherever. Don't be discovered by her.
The gates are open.
The light protects me. The light protects me.
Here's a phrase in the description. Don't be caught, period. You must be purged of sin, period. We don't encourage crime like this situation, period. Don't copy the protagonist's follies. So they're saying in the description directly that you shouldn't copy the actions you're doing in this game. Trying to cover them. Says you can touch and feel her as much as you like in the gallery. There are 5 frames in your dark room. It is the gallery. If you clear each stage, they will be unlocked. So well the played. Fantasy rewards. And then the review here says the girl can see through doors. And then the one recommended review says this game felt creepy. So I can't really recommend Love Obsession, although, you know, this game, it strikes me it would be better, a better seller and more mainstream if you were playing as a cat or a puppy wandering around the house collecting random items and avoiding being seen by owner than you would be as a creepy, obsessed person who's broken into somebody's house. It would just have more mainstream appeal and make more sense that you're wandering around the house collecting random things. That's something cats do. For the most part, it is also something that puppies do. So, yep. We continue down our pattern where not a single game today has come out that I've recommended so far, and we don't have that much left. There's about 7 games. And Ninja Star says, do you have any tips on the game I just started? So, okay. What are my tips? The tips that will best help you is, it takes about in my opinion, it takes about a week to play that first, the first few things you need to do to set up. Which you're in a pretty good position in Hearthstone because the Tavern Brawl hasn't started. What you want to do is unlock all of the characters first. The best way to do that is to friend somebody by adding them on whatever account. You're probably playing the Americas account, you might be playing the European or the Asian account. Add a friend, type in their battle tag, friend them, talk to the friend and get them to concede against you for every character you don't have unlocked. So you'll start by default by playing with the mage. To play as the warrior, you need to beat the warrior once. You could go through a whole game trying to play as the mage against the warrior in single player and do that, or you can spend about 5 minutes and have them challenge you. When they're online, there'll be a box here to challenge you, and they'll challenge you to a standard game, which will be the only kind of game you'll be able to play, and then just have them click here and concede. And so when they concede as the mage, you can play as the mage. Then they challenge you again as, say, the paladin, and then they concede. And they should just do that for all 8 of the characters that you need unlocked. That'll spend about 5 minutes to get you finished there. So you have all of them. Your next goal is going to be getting up to rank 10 or 20 so you can get Tavern Brawls. That should be the next focus, is because if you get that free Tavern Brawl each week or every 3 days or whenever a Tavern Brawl is available, it's between 3 and 5 days, doing those Tavern Brawls will give you a card pack of some standard cards, and so that'll give you 5 more cards, and that'll help you expand and move forward to having a bigger collection. As far as deck building right now, you just won't have any cards, so I wouldn't change any of the decks, just play with the basic ones. I would try to get 5 rank wins to get the card backs every month, but then I'd mostly just play on casual standard play, and I would come back at least once every 3 days, check every day for a daily quest, trade those daily quests to the more expensive ones so you get more gold. Do the daily quest to earn the gold. And then the final basic solution, as you're gonna work towards getting everybody up to rank 20 to play Tavern Brawls, is a sad statement, but frankly we're so late into the life of this game. After about a month, I would say, if you're still playing this game and you still want to continue to play this game, and that's a big milestone, frankly, because a lot of people get into Hearthstone, play it for a couple of weeks, get bored, and leave. After about a month, and I would say no earlier than a month, since we're so late into the life of the game, I'm gonna have to suggest buying that beginner's bundle that's in the shop to get you 50 basic cards, I'm gonna have to suggest buying a lot more cards, as much as you can afford of the standard cards. That way you're gonna have at least the beginning of a reasonable player playable account. My European and Asian accounts are 6 months to a year old, and they are rather struggling to have any cards to build any kind of interesting deck, and that they're very much struggling to get victories. That's why I'm playing on casual right now, is because just doing a free-to-play account now does not really work. I have the feeling that I would really hope that Hearthstone would give more cards to new players and get them up to snuff, so that they can play the new experiences and catch up with the people who've been playing this since the beta. But it really hasn't happened. I've been playing on my main Americas account for 4 years, and still I don't have a complete collection of the basic cards. Still, I'm missing a ton of other elements that I feel like I should have earned by now. I would say wait a month before you put any money into it, though, because the drop-off is a lot. I would also say ignore Arena. Arena might be tempting. If you get a free Arena run, your first run will be free. It might be fun to play that once and just get a handle of it, but putting gold or money into playing Arena is not a smart move for somebody who's new to the game, and so that's not something I would say. Ignore the single player experience as much as possible. There is the Kobolds and Catacombs dungeon run that you could be doing. There is the Witchwood monster hunt that you could be doing, and those are fun certainly, but they're not really going to get your characters enough experience for the time you put into it to make it worthwhile. So I'd stay with the ranked play, solo play, and tavern brawl until you get a handle over things. Let's do this.
Try that.
We have Ashish coming on to the chat. I hope I pronounced that. Ashish Kapoor. According to you, what legendary cards are and best, I guess that means are best, and how to best utilize the gold? The gold is best used, well, it's used most efficiently if doing arena runs, but it takes too long to do the arena runs for it to really make sense. And there is a level of randomness there. If you do an arena run and you die, just 3 fails in a row without any victories, you will have spent 150 gold and gotten 1 card pack and at least 25 dust, which is probably better than what you would get just buying a 100 gold card pack. But you're trading your time for that. So you're spending 3 games that could take well over an hour to play in an arena run to lose all 3 of those games to get that card pack, where it's easier to just buy card packs and open them. As far as legendaries go, it's heavily dependent on whether or not you're playing standard or wild. I feel like right now playing playing Wild, you'd want things like Prince Malchazar, Reno Jackson. I'm sure there's many others that you could look up and play. But if you're playing standard, Prince Malchazar, Reno Jackson, not there. Not cards that you can play. So the Lich King is kind of good, but the legendary cards, to get to the core of it doesn't matter what legendary cards are good, because unless you're willing to put $300-400 into buying card packs to get that specific legendary, the only other way you're going to make it is if you have 1600 dust. And 1600 dust for any kind of new player is way better suited by purchasing common and rare and epic cards. So my recommendation is to try to do a diversity spread so you can play more cards and look at them and get familiar with them. So if you have dust, you should craft commons, one of each common. And then if you have more dust, you should craft rares, one of each rare. And then you'll at least have something that's slightly different. A common card, I believe, is only 100 dust. No, it's like 50 or 40 dust to create a common card, whereas it's 1600 dust to craft a legendary. You only start to get to the point where it makes sense to craft legendaries after you have all the other cards in an expansion. And that's certainly not the experience for new players. If you want legendaries, you've got to open packs. In the process of opening packs, you'll get other cards too. If you're crafting anything with dust, you either need to have already had a complete collection, or you just have a ton of packs you've already opened. So when you come over here, and let's say you're looking at all the standard cards, if you just type in the word common and then the key phrase missing, this is the list of cards that you should craft with dust first. And like, I've got plenty of dust, so I could craft this for 40 dust right now if I really wanted to. And you'd particularly want to do things like this. Make a diversity spread. If it's blue, that means you don't even have one of them, so you can do that. I'm not sure I particularly want to do that right now, though, because I think I'm waiting for the next expansion to see if there's anything super interesting. I would also say you are much better suited to start with neutral cards, because you don't know what cards will help you with what. And then you can also look for cards that will play towards the daily quests. If you look through a list of the daily quests, there are minions that there's a daily quest to play elementals, so you would definitely want elementals to be able to do that daily quest. If you have no elementals whatsoever, then you're in a very bad place. There's one that says pirates. If you have no pirates, you can't do that daily quest. There was one that said murlocs. I'm not sure if that's still around. Like, this common card, for instance, is a rather good card to have, and they're just not... I just don't have it because it got nerfed and I turned it into dust. Once you have all the common, or at least one of all the commons, then you type in rare and go up to the next level of rarity. And these cost 100 to make. And so my 400 dust would only let me have 4 of those. and clearly I'm missing a lot more than just 4 in the standard cards. This is standard cards, not all cards. And then after you've gotten all the rares that interest you, maybe not all the rares completely, then you move up to epics. And epics cost 400, so with my 400 dust I could make 1. And that's why it's so much better just to open packs. Particularly when you're new and you don't even know what cards are worth anything. And the value of cards keep changing because the meta keeps changing. So there might be a card that comes out that works really well and synergizes with an old card, which could increase the old card's value. Or a card could come out and it does the same thing or does better than what an existing card does, lowering its value. So the familiarity of with cards is something you have to develop as you're playing. I would say, generally speaking, these legendaries that are the quest cards are pretty fun. So if you're trying to get a legendary, you want to cross your fingers to get the quest cards. These legendaries that are hero replacement cards are pretty fun, so you want to try and get those. And in general, still you would want some legendaries like Tinkmaster Overspark that are neutral before you'd want something something that only could be played by the druid, only could be played by somebody else. Getting more cards with Elsa the Trailblazer, sometimes very helpful. Let's see. The Black Knight, destroying something with taunt, still pretty useful. Leroy Jenkins, still pretty useful. Leroy Jenkins, probably one of the best cards you could get from Legendary. The Lich King, very useful Legendary you can try and hope to get. And Deathwing is a pretty good one too. Plus Yorsa and many others. But remember, 1600 dust to craft one. You only need one, but you still have to pay a very high premium for that. Well, we've already gone about an hour. Let's see what the chat says. We've got somebody with what looks like a Korean name that says Taunt Druid. I like Druid cards alright, and I like Taunt, but if you're asking a specific meta deck, I really wouldn't know. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Stay tuned if you're watching live. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, give me a game on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.